And hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. Happy Monday for those that are here live. We've been talking about this idea of deliberate practice, conditioning, understanding, how it all fits in together. So let's just sort of like create an order over here. Knowledge really is meant in multiple ways, right? You can't just put a one-size-fits-all on knowledge, but let's take knowledge that is meant to make us better, that type of knowledge. Right? There's knowledge that's interesting. There's knowledge that is just informational. There's knowledge that is supposed to be transformational. Right? When you go to the doctor and he says you have to be healthier, that's not just, that's interesting. Like, wow. Thanks, doc. Wow, my heart is what? Wow, fascinating. Let's look at that screen again. It's not really what he's looking for. He's looking to get you to do something. So he's giving you information in order for you to say, oh my gosh, my heart is what? How old am I? I got to make a change, right? When you go through periods of life and you want growth, the information that you're getting is not just informational, it's transformational. When you go through a period of time like New Year's or the high holidays, the goal, high holidays, probably not New Year's, but the goal is transformational information, right? It's not informational information, right? That it has to have a purpose. And when you engage in such information, it is normal to want to transform, to want to do the thing that you just learned about. You learned about watching your speech, and then if the person who presented it properly does their job, you want to speak better. You hear about relationships, and you want to have deeper relationships. Yeah, I was just recently talking to someone about being happy. And whatever, the person's got a lot, but the person doesn't have enough. Who has enough? I was trying to explain to the person that your brain can't really take in that much information. So if you spend your day overwhelming yourself with the joy of what you have, you're just not going to have enough space to constantly see what you don't have. But if you don't do that, if you're not filling your mind with the enjoyment of the good that you have, your mind is sort of neutral. You take that for granted. And then when you see something that you don't have, then you get into the negative, right? The information I was giving that person, hopefully it was helpful. It wasn't, that's interesting. What a cool study. It was, I should actually do that and have a happier life. It's important when you look at information that way. And this is, I believe, a piece of what we spoke about last week with the book Mesilas Yesharim, where the rabbi said, you're going to hear this already. When you read what I'm about to write to you, I'm telling you that you're not going to be like, what? It's going to be familiar. Fine, let it be familiar. But you got to know how to use the information here. And this is really the difference. And this is a major mistake. And I live in this mistake. Like, I live in this mistake. I've lived in it much more when I was younger, but I'm still in it. I remember when I was younger, especially when, I started my life, as many of you know if you've been listening, in corporate law. Corporate law is a rough place. Rough place. For those of you who are partners in corporate law, God bless you. You stuck it out. It's hard. When I got there, man, forget about it. I don't know how it is now. But when I got there, you were working days and nights on end, and on stuff that, unless you loved it, was really boring and complicated. Right? I remember times sitting in my office at 6:30 and someone walking in and going, I need an answer by morning. And I'm like, it's 6:30. I was going to take the 7 o'clock bus home. And they're like, I guess not. And I just called my wife and I was like, I'll be home at 4 in the morning. And I was. And that happened many times. Times people rolled in on a Friday and saying I need it for Monday morning. Saturday night, I make Havdalah and Shabbat and get in a car and drive to the office. Like, many, many, many times where you're working through the night, late, weekends. And I remember during that time trying to find something else, or at least trying to assume there's something else out there. And the way I scratched that itch is I would read a lot of personal growth books. And something amazing happened, which was when I read the book, I kind of felt like I was on the path to change. Personal growth does that. When you read a good personal growth book, you kind of feel that you're going to put this all into your life and you're going to make the changes that the author speaks about. It makes total sense. And it's going to be amazing. And you keep on reading it. And I would, because I'd travel, because you do diligence in different places. So I'd be on airplanes and be in hotels, and I'd be reading and reading and reading and reading and reading and reading. And every time I read one of these books, I was like flying. But the problem with some of these books is that when you're done with it, it's over. Like, you close the last chapter and you're like, that was awesome. All right, here I go. And you're like, well, what I guess I got to go back to work and get the new self-help book. It ends with the last chapter. For many of them, not for all of them. And the reason is because we approach certain information, in this case the personal growth book, the way I would approach a book, the way I would approach a novel, the way I would approach a textbook at a class. I am using the information like I'm digesting it and being like, wow, that's amazing. I could do that. Yeah, great. You're right. I love it. Let me underline this. Let me highlight this. And what I'm not doing is actually using the information properly. As the rabbi said, you're going to hear this already. The words that I'm giving you in this book, he wrote, it's going to be familiar to you. You got to use it right. If you read the book and close the cover, it's going to do nothing for you. It could be the biggest wisdom in the world. It won't do anything for you if you just close the cover. You have to read the book and then use the information properly. How do you do that? So let's begin here, and then we'll pick this up mañana. When you're engaging in information that is transformational, you have to go at the information, and we talked about this last week a little bit, as if the information is just a coach in your quest, as we said last week, in deliberate practice. Right? When you are learning how to, like we did, let's use the same example. You're learning how to swing a bat. And someone says, hey, the way you swing a bat is you drop your elbow and you tighten up your grip, and then you sort of swing the bat a little, shake the bat above your head, right? You're not going to be like, that's interesting. Yeah, cool. Thanks. Close the book. If you're reading a book on batting swings, you don't close the cover and go, wow, fascinating, amazing. What else you got in the library? You take the book with you to the baseball diamond, right? You hear the person say it and go, like this? Wait, like this? How? How do I drop my elbow? Like, what's the, how? Because you know that the information is only there as a coach giving you instructions in deliberate practice, which you'll use, continue to practice until it gets into your system. So when you engage in information, if the thinking is not, I'm going to hear it, hold on. How do I do it? Let me get back to it. Let me try it and get back to it. Then you're looking at information for information's sake. And the reason why for so much of us, we never really grow, is because whenever we hear a podcast or a speech or a book or whatever it is, we don't actually pause it and go back to it. We don't say, wait, can I do that? We don't hear it as a coach. We hear it as a lecturer. We hear it as an entertainer. We're like, what a great idea. Click. What's my next podcast? What's my next book? I brought 3 for vacation. That's interesting. Let me underline it so I can go back to it whenever. When do you ever go back to a book to pick out the underlines? But if you're reading something or you hear something and you pause and say, what? Wait. I got to try this. And you go out and actually try it. And you come back to the book and you try to figure out if the author's intention is matching at least a little bit your experience. Now you're in a different game. Now you're playing a whole new level now. All right, let's talk about this. All right, everybody. Great day. With God's help, we'll see you tomorrow.